Welcome, everybody. This is the Ankoreaux Collective podcast. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we're just kind of meeting new people in the creative space. And I wanted to welcome Shaughn Tillman. He's a director of photography as well as a director making some amazing films. If you haven't seen them, go check him out on Vimeo, YouTube. I'm sure you can find him pretty easily by just typing his name in. We'll leave some info at the end of this to connect with him. But dude, welcome to the Ankoreaux Collective podcast, man.
Thanks, man. Glad to be here. Glad to chat and connect.
Awesome. Well, yeah, this whole thing is it's kind of designed by creatives for creatives, and the whole thing is just to inspire and just motivate other creative people, because as you probably have experienced in your own creative journey, there's times where it can be very isolating and lonely, and am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Like, how do I figure this out? Is it self-taught? So there's all these questions, and we just kind of want to uncover some of that behind the scenes aspect of this. So I know a lot of people probably have no idea what director of photography even is, and in layman's terms, kind of operating the camera. And maybe you can just share a little bit about your passions and what is a director of photography and what do you bring to the table?
Yeah, well, so I think it just started out with I was always a pretty visual person, and I was raised by two artists. Both my parents are artists. My dad was a creative director at an ad agency growing up, where he was always creative, and he did graphic design, but he also worked on video shoots as a creative guy that's always looking at the picture, saying what can we change, how can we make this better, not from a camera perspective, but from a looking in the frame and seeing the art of what they were shooting and figuring out how to make that better. And then my mom taught all different mediums of art. She owned her own art studio and just taught painting and drawing and you name it, every different type of medium she taught. So I was raised by a bunch of hippie artists, I like to say, which now, funny enough, they live on a farm in Kentucky called the Art Farm. And my dad has a wood shop now, and he builds custom furniture, and my mom still teaches art and stuff. So yeah, so I'm raised by some artists that kind of taught me to follow my dreams. They were never like the go get your degree and be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. They just wanted to find my interests and told me to pursue those. So I'm thankful for that, because I found out really young that my interests were just telling stories. I always loved telling stories as a kid. I love making funny stories as a kid, and growing up with a little video camera, trying to just do funny things with my friends. And there's a lot of kids that do that and have done that and still do that today. Now they call it TikTok, I guess. So, but yeah, growing up in that, and my parents always encouraging me to go outside and do more of that. It eventually it got to the point where I realized that I can do that and make a living at it. So that's when I kind of got more serious into it. And I went to school for it in Louisville, back where I'm from, Louisville, Kentucky. And then I ended up dropping out of school to go work on actual movie sets. I made some connections, and I went, and they basically told me, no one in this field really cares too much about an actual piece of paper, a degree. They want to see your work. They want to see that you're a hard worker, that you know what you're doing, and they're going to look at your reel. And, that's how people gauge in this community on whether or not they want to work with you. And also, if you're good or not. It really doesn't matter if you went to a school or not. So I dropped out of school, and I never actually ended up graduating. I don't have a degree from anywhere, which is kind of crazy. I almost graduated, which is funny. I did all my gen eds, and even I might have had maybe 2 more semesters of my actual program, and it just never happened because I dropped out. I went to go work on movie sets with some connections that I made, and just kind of built my way up from there. and never had to go back to school because, I never needed to. I was always just kind of building on jobs, and yeah, it's taken me to some pretty incredible places, and I've gotten to tell a lot of really cool stories, and I don't think I would change really how, I don't think I would ever go back to school to just finish my degree. But yeah, it's been really cool, and I yeah, I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give to aspiring filmmakers. Like, don't waste your money at film school. I got, stacks and stacks of debt from that place, and they did not set me up for. I mean, you learn so much more just getting your feet wet and diving in, on set. I mean, I remember after I graduated, I was a PA. Maybe I wasn't even a PA. It was like a second or third camera assistant, and this guy's like asking me, go get this cable, go get that cable, go get that. And I'm like, I don't even know what any of this stuff, like, they didn't even teach me what any of this is at school. Like, what the heck? I felt so lost and embarrassed. And I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work for me, because they probably just looked at me like I was some, rookie that really, you graduated film school and you don't know, you don't know. So anyway, yeah, I would say I agree 100%, man.
Yeah, I think that there are definitely some film schools that are like worth going to if you are really green and like you know nothing and you want to learn. But it also kind of depends on, like, you have to kind of evaluate yourself and figure out what type of learner you are, because some people do need like to be in a class environment and learn through an instructor. Um, and there are some schools that will tell you what type of cables there are, and like they will give you the full spectrum of what you need to know, but some schools won't. So you got to find the right school, and you have to be the right person for that. For me, I was always the type of person that was just, I'm going to figure it out on my own, and doing it through just doing it, right? I'm going to make the mistakes, and I've made thousands of mistakes, and that's how I learn, And so I don't retain as much knowledge from sitting in a class and hearing someone talk about, movie theory and like really deconstructing, a scene or a movie, where when I was in school, we would watch these movies with no audio, and we would just like watch them from beginning to end, and we'd pause the frame and like figure out how they lit something, or like really check the composition and like, okay, what are they doing here? But for me, I think I got a lot more when I was out there either doing it on my own or out there on a movie set or somewhere documentary, where I would watch and like see the cameraman put the camera where he's putting it. And I would try to understand why he's doing that. And some situations I would be able to talk to them, and I would be able to ask, hey, why did you do the thing that you did? And they would tell me. And that is, to me, the best learning that I can get, is being there in the environment right where they're doing it. And that's probably how I learned. Even though I went to school for it, I learned a lot of the basics on my own just by doing it. But then when I wanted to really when I wanted to take it to the next level, I think all of my like higher end learning was from like actual movie sets and networks, and people that I met, and just kind of like use them as my mentor and said, hey, how do you do this? How do you do this? It was probably pretty annoying for the first 3 or 4 years of my career, because I was always asking questions and figuring that stuff out. But that's what I love about it. I try to do that now for as many other people as possible. So, I think I've been doing filmmaking professionally for about 12 years now.
Okay.
And, I have people all the time who either come intern, on shoots and just, hey, I want to spend, a few months with you, or just asking me questions all the time, reaching out on social media. And I never let one of those go. Like if I see someone that's eager to learn, I always want to pour into them, because I put myself in their shoes. And I never really had a person that was just willing to. I had to really like aggressively go out there and be the guy that was annoying and try to figure it out on my own and pester people to get, the knowledge that they had. So I think I try to go out of my way to help other people learn that stuff. Because if they're willing to put the work in, then like, then that they'll do it. And I wish I had somebody like that when I was doing it, but I didn't. And so it just took a lot longer for me to kind of gain all the knowledge that I have today. But yeah, I love connecting with people and never turn someone down for, their willingness to want to learn.
Dude, that's amazing. And you said a word that really stood out to me, mentor. It's like you said you didn't really have that when you were going through those trying times, kind of figuring it out. I certainly didn't either. And I feel like that would be the biggest thing I could tell someone is, go find someone like a Shaughn Tillman, a Dusty Jenkins, or whoever it is that you just love their style and work. For me, it was actually a photographer. Like, I didn't even understand f-stop, shutter speed, ISO. I was like, what is all this stuff? Like, when I was in school, it was like the actual like Panasonic, like bigger cameras, like ND filter was built in and stuff. So moving to DSLR, I was like, what? This is a whole new ball game for me, but it sure does look a lot better. So I want to learn it. And I just ended up trading a photographer that I loved his style. And he's like, hey man, I'll teach you about all the DSLR, the different focal lengths of different lenses, if you do some like promotional videos for my photography company. And I'm like, dude, that's a sick trade. I'll do that. So awesome. Yeah, it worked out.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
What,
I never answered your question. I don't know if you want to talk about more of for people, if we're trying to generalize this a little bit and talk less specs, but I can talk about like a director of photography and a director and really what those roles are.
Yeah, that would be awesome to touch on that a little bit. If you're, I know you said that you're kind of being a director as well these days, and not as much director of photography. Are you kind of doing both, or what are you up to?
So going back, kind of like I said, I was working my way up through the industry where, I would start out on film sets as a PA, they call that a personal assistant, in like the camera department, where I would just basically help do whatever, the first ACs or different roles in the camera department. They would ask me to go do things, and I would just like, hey, go grab this, help me build this, build the dolly track, whatever. I would just do odd jobs and started working my way up in there. And then I kind of fell in love with, just because I was raised from artists who were very visual. I'm a visual person as well. And I gravitated towards the camera and composition and lighting and how you can craft an image so many different ways. And I fell in love with that. That was the first thing that I fell in love with within filmmaking. So that was my first love, was like creating beautiful images. And I really aspired to be, I think at the beginning of my journey, a DP, which is a director of photography. And that's the person, and it varies from project in terms of scale on what a DP actually is. So the director of photography is responsible for the frame, for the lighting, for the composition, but that doesn't always mean that he is going to be the one with the camera shooting the frame and actually putting the lights where they need to go. In the highest end, when you like look at Netflix movies or feature films or whatever shows, most of the time, the director of photography doesn't actually even touch a camera at all. He's responsible for the team and telling people, okay, this is where I want the camera. This is what I think we need to be on this focal lens. We need lights over here. And then he's got a team of people doing basically what he says. He's got gaffers going in there, putting lights where he wants. He's looking at the image and constantly trying to tweak it. That's at the highest end of the field, but obviously there's layers where people don't have teams of people doing that for them. So and neither do I. just recently have, you know, in my last few years have been to a point where I'm working on big enough sets with big enough crews to where I didn't have to touch a camera if I didn't want to. Some directors, even now, you know, you got Roger Deakins, these really big names that shoot these incredible movies. They still operate a camera because they want to, because they don't want, you know, they love operating cameras and that's their decision. So they can go into a movie saying, I'm the DP, but I'm also the camera operator because that's what I want to be.
That's awesome.
And I think I kind of fall under that too. I love holding a camera. I love operating. And, you know, I grew up doing that. So there's different levels of it, and the smaller levels, obviously, you're putting the lights where you want. You know, you're operating the camera. You're doing all of that work on your own, and you don't have a team of people building cameras for you or anything like that. And that's definitely where I think a lot of people fall. If you're a DP, you're the person shooting it, putting the lights where, you know, you want to put them. You're doing all the technical side of it, as well as crafting the image and like the creative side as well. So you're doing the physical part of it and the mental creative part together. And so I did that for a long time and I love that. But I guess as I got older, I think what I fell in love more with just storytelling in general. And I didn't really know early on how powerful story could be and how much people can relate and want to relate to things, you know, like people that we all watch movies, shows, videos online. And I think that when we watch something, we immediately gravitate towards what can I pull from this video that relates to me, just like subliminally, you know, like if I'm watching a video, I'm going to be like, okay, like what do I feel that this person is feeling, and have I felt that before? And and so I think everyone really does that to some extent on a subliminal level. And I realized that, okay, how you tell the story, both visual and how you piece it together, and the music and the acting and all of that stuff that comes together really can be like a super powerful thing, not just the visuals. And so that kind of intrigued me more. And I started like pursuing, okay, I think I want to be more involved with everything, like not just the visuals, because a lot of times, you know, you can shoot something and it can be beautiful, and then you can have bad acting, or, you know, the pacing of the video isn't great, and all these other little things that can really water something down, and make it not as impacting. And so that's where I kind of lean towards, okay, if I'm going to have to pick one, I like doing both still. And I'm at the point right now where I still shoot and I still DP a lot of stuff and shoot a lot of stuff. But if I had to pick, I'd probably pick directing more, because directing it's more of an overall, they're seeing the project from start to finish. They're working with the DP. So you still do get a lot of like, okay, what are you thinking for this shot? You know, they'll tell me how they want to light it. If I'm directing that thing, I might say, okay, well, this is how, you know, I want the scene to play out. So maybe we should, it's a very collaborative thing. Everyone's super collaborative. So to me, I don't think I really miss, like if I'm directing something and not DPing it and I have someone else that's helping me shoot, I'm okay with that. You know, I still get to have collaborative workflow with them. Even though I love the visuals and I love crafting visuals, I think overall the more important thing for me is like, I want to make a video that when people watch it, like they're going to be inspired, or they're going to come away more hopeful, or there's different things that I get fired up about, which is the reason that I would invest all my time into this, and directing really helps cater to those feelings. And like, I get to have my hand in the final product more if I'm directing rather than just creating the visuals. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's another skill, because you've got to see all of the angles, right? You've got to see the story. You've got to think about the story way more. You've got to think about the pacing of the video and the arc of the story. And there's a lot more to it. So the past few years, I think I've probably fell more into directing. I do more directing than I do like DP, but man, I love it because I've just realized how powerful like just filmmaking can be if you do it right and you're telling the right stories. And that's really all I'm interested, honestly, in doing is telling stories right now that like will inspire people. I gravitate towards that, the human connection that, you know, you talked about kind of basing this whole podcast off of is really what I try to lean in towards when I'm shooting different types of video is like, where's the human connection that people are going to watch this video and relate to the most. And then I like zone in on that and I go, okay, this is where we need to focus to be the most impactful. And that's what excites me.
Come on, man. That's so good. I think you laid that out really nicely. And you mentioned the mental creative side of this. You know, it's like there is very much that space that you have to get into to be able to plan the story, to shoot the story. It's just layers of just mental health, really. And we can always, there's definitely self-sabotage involved sometimes where, you know, it's like, man, I'm just not feeling it today. Like how it's like writer's block. I can only imagine, you know, I saw a post earlier, you're looking for like a writer's group, you know, so just getting in that creative zone and that creative space on how to get the thoughts down on the paper and then get the visionary side of it cooking a little bit, you know. And so I wanted to kind of lean in towards that a little bit. Like, when do you feel that you're the most creative? You know, whether that's day to day, whether it's a space. What do you find is the recipe for your creative success?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that it's gonna vary for different people, right? Like people that might be watching this podcast may relate to what I do or may not relate to what I do. So that's, I think, is important to recognize right off the bat is like we're all different. So things that we do there is no just secret recipe, one secret recipe, but there's lots of little things that I think that you can do. The first thing that I think us as creatives need to do to make sure that we're kind of operating at our peak level is making sure that we're having space to get re-energized and stay fresh. So like there was a season of my life where I just taking every single job that comes and like if I take this job I'll get better from it, if I take this job I'll get better, and like the more jobs I do the better, the more things I'm going to learn from those jobs and the better I'm going to be. So why not like just try to take as much work as I can and try to learn. And like I thought growth, my creative growth would be it would be faster if I just did more work. And that's actually, I don't think that's true for me specifically. You will learn more quickly in terms of like little things not to do wrong, obviously with communication with clients or like little, you know, physical errors on shoot day or whatever. But if we're talking like specifically just being creative and like, how do I stay creative? I don't think it is to do as many jobs as you can. I think that you need the space to not do any jobs, to just get inspired by like life, just little things. And that's really where the big things come in on the next job. So that might look like, you know, taking a few days to literally not shoot or edit anything, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. It could be, you know, different for anybody, but like where you say, okay, I'm gonna mentally set this time aside and not shoot or edit. I'm not gonna be in any, you know, Premiere or touch a camera or anything like that for 2 weeks. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like use all of my time to just like connect with other people and do things that I think inspire me and make me feel more creative. So like for me, I love fishing. I love taking my kids out. I love being outside in nature. So I'll do as much of that as I can when I'm not in a project, or I'll push pause on a project and say, okay, I'm feeling like a little burnt out creatively. So I'm going to like put this aside and just go be in another mindset. And I'm not thinking about like, how can I be creative in video when I'm out, with my kids and family and nature. I'm being in the moment with them. But that honestly does something special when I come back, because I do feel more energized and I do feel like ready to tackle that problem. So it's very important for me to have that space. And I think probably for everyone else, and there's different levels of how much time that you probably need. But making sure that you create that space is super important, to say, I'm not just going to hit every project one after another. I'm going to like do a project, but then when I get done with that project, I'm going to spend a week to just like chill and be with my family. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and for me, I think it's I want to be the morning person, because like for 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. and I have two kids as well, and so we're homeschooling our 5-year-old daughter, and so Tuesdays are the days that she's on her homeschool enrichment program or whatever. But I'm thinking, if the kids are around during the day, my wife did this office space for me. You should have seen that. I should show you a before picture. It was like, if you're anything like me, I'm like super unorganized and messy usually. Like, so I'm like, Brandy, my wife's name is Brandy, and I'm like, and I want to go into this office and feel inspired and creative. Could you just like do your magic thing you do like in the house down in my office? And so she did. So I was like, I like these few things and just have at it. And so now this place inspires me now. But for me, it was like 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. is like a sweet spot if I can get my butt out of bed in the morning, That's the hardest part. But I mean, if I'm done with most of my work by 9 a.m., I'm like a completely different person. I'm a better father. I'm a better husband. I'm not so stressed about, oh, these tasks are weighing on me. And then like you, getting up that early to hit the trail and see the sunrise out in nature, or just there's a hill, a park with this hill that overlooks all of Denver, and you can see the airplanes coming into DIA. It's like the most beautiful, the front range for as far as the eye can see. And going up there for the sunrise is just, it like sparks this thing in me, And so I can totally relate to you on, just getting outside is such a big help in the creative space and mental capacity for me anyway.
Yeah. I would recommend, there's a book that I read. Oh man, I'm gonna blank on the name now. What was the book? Uh Anyways, maybe I'll think of it later. But it was basically, there was a chapter of the book that focused on the art of saying no. And I think that was a skill that once I learned how to say no to people, because in this industry, it is kind of, you have to be really good. The better that you get and the more jobs that come in and the more people that are requesting things of you and the more that you value your time, the better you have to get at saying no to people. It's something that I never really expected when I was younger, but like, it's so important these days, because I'll get so many different requests to do different things, and I got to be really specific with where I put my energy, because I have a family and I need to prioritize them, obviously, and then I have my work life, and I only have so many hours that I can put towards my work life. So it's really important to pick your projects wisely, and there's just too many people coming to me asking, hey, can you do this, can you do this? And so there was this, man, I wish I could remember that book. What's that book called?
I think I don't remember the title either, but I know which one you're talking about because I've heard of it.
um Anyways, and that kind of goes back towards what we were talking about with like creating space and creating time to just do nothing. Even if you're not out in nature, or like literally just time to sit and not think about something is needed. So you have to get good at saying no to people in a way where you just be real and transparent with them and say like, hey, like I would love to help you for this thing, but you know, it's important. My time is really important to me right now, and I need to, you know, decline this for whatever reason. You know, I hope that doesn't offend you or anything, but
Yeah.
I've had to say that a lot lately. And or if it's like, you know, being in meetings and going to meetings, shaving off time there where it's like, hey, I really don't think I need to be in this meeting. You know, I need to just have time to do nothing.
Yeah.
That has helped me a lot here in literally the past year of just like clearing my calendar a little bit, just not really clear it so I can fill it with other stuff, but clear it so I can just like have some space to breathe. And the nothingness is really where I get inspired for the projects that I start back up. And so that's important too, I think.
Dude, come on, man. Well, speaking of the value of time, are we doing okay? I know we're kind of running way over on
Yeah.
time here, so as long
No,
we have a
man.
hard stop today, maybe 10 more minutes.
I probably got to get out at like 12 o'clock, but
Okay, cool. Yeah,
another
so
20
maybe,
minutes. I'm
yeah,
good to go. I love talking and chatting about this stuff. So you're good.
awesome. Well, thanks, man. So creative burnout, this actually brought up something that I'm involved in, which is super fun. So Curran, back to Curran's company, Jube, he started this virtual book club, and the first book was Built to Serve by Evan Carmichael. And so the idea was, hey, I'm going to get 20 people, everybody gets a book, and at the end of reading the book, we're going to meet the author. And so in a setting like this, the author comes on, and it's like an hour and a half of Q&A, and you just get to like jam with the author about, man, this part of the book was super inspiring to me. So I was like, Evan Carmichael? I mean, come on, that guy's like super inspiring. Like, I don't know if you know his name yet, but the book Built to Serve, dude, like totally opened my eye to one word. It was like he basically formalizes like what your purpose is down to one word. And I always knew like, oh, my purpose was storytelling, something like that. I never like really thought much beyond that.
Yeah.
And going through these like series of questions that he had, I was like, his word was believe, and mine ended up being believe as well. And I'm like, well,
Wow.
now everything that I do can stem from belief or believe. Like, does that project align with something I believe in or something that
Yeah.
I should believe in them in, And so
Yeah.
the next one is a gal, she's a new author up and coming, and it's called the bounce back ability factor. And it's all about creative burnout. And I'm like, man, I'm just so excited. The book is actually geared towards women in the medical space, I think. But
Mhm.
she said it's really for everybody. I watched one of his podcasts on an interview about the book and that kind of stuff. I haven't gotten it in the mail yet, but I'm excited to dive in, and I'll have to maybe I'll gift you a copy. I'll send you a copy, and you can
Yeah.
experience that as well.
That's
Because I think
awesome.
we're jamming about creative burnout a little bit, and I was like, well, how perfect is this? Like, here's this author that just wrote a book about it. I'm excited to see what she has to say.
Yeah, I would love to read a book like that. I think that's we all go through seasons being in a creative field. It's so hard every day to have to be creative on demand. And I think that us as filmmakers, we are put in that situation a lot, even more so than probably most other creative people. Where we have clients coming to us and saying, this is my idea, or this is what we're selling, or this is our story that we want to tell. Be creative, go right now, like can you just go do it? And it's so hard to do that on demand.
Yeah.
It has to come to you. You have to be inspired to tell a story. And so that's why, number one, I'm and I'm blessed, definitely blessed, to be able to be at a point where I can be a little more choosy with the projects that I take on, because I do want to make sure that I align with, the stories that I'm telling, and that I believe in them. Um, and that's why I do this, is because like I want to believe in a story, and then I want to tell that story the best way that I can to get other people to hear it, and and get it out there in the world. And I'll do that, and I'll still do that today on my own. No one has to pay me or hire me. If I hear a story, the Braving the Nerves short film that I did not long ago, maybe a year ago, was like a prime example of, there was this girl in my gym that I go to, and she's 14 years old, and she had it was a infection. She just had a like internal infection in her spine that she didn't even know about. And then it just happened like literally in like an hour. One day it went from she just kind of felt sick, and then all of a sudden she couldn't walk anymore. And she's 14 years old. She was playing like high level volleyball. Just a normal girl that was an athlete, that went from, that just basically had her whole world taken from her in a split second, not from like a crazy injury, which is like really, that was like intriguing to me, that like she didn't have some crazy crash or wreck or anything. It was like, she was just a normal girl doing her thing. And then one day she's like, "Mom, I don't feel well." And then she can't walk anymore. As they're taking her to the hospital, like she walked into the hospital and then she did not walk out. And what's funny about this whole story is like, when I heard it, I worked out with this girl. Her father brought her to the gym that I worked out, and her dad, I'm friends with her dad, and her dad worked out with her and me. We go to a CrossFit gym, so like we kind of all work out together. But I worked out with this girl, and when I heard her injury, it was like, I'll never see this girl again, because obviously she would never be in a CrossFit gym after, she's paralyzed from the chest down. And she went through tons of rehab, and obviously she's still paralyzed, but man, like, wasn't 6 months later that like I saw her back in the gym in her wheelchair, like working out, with the biggest smile on her face. Like, that's what was crazy inspiring to me, is that like this girl just went through the most tragic thing that she'll ever have to deal with her in her entire life. And 6 months later, she's back in the gym, giving it every effort that she can, and has a smile on her face, and is making other people happy, like joking around with other people. And like, she just got paralyzed 6 months ago. Like, that is crazy. So after hearing like her story, I had to like why I would be on the couch right now, just in self-pity, for years, getting depressed about like why I can't do the things that I could do anymore. So like, that was a story that I felt like needed to be told, and no one told me to do it. I was just like, man, you are an incredible person, and you inspire me just by coming in, doing the things that you do every day. And I think that you will inspire a lot of other people, if they knew your story. So she let me tell her story, and I just made a little like 7-minute short film about her. And yeah, I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from that. And just tons of people have been so inspired by this little girl. And that's why I do it, is to tell inspirational stories. And I just want, like, I know I'm inspired. So it's really, I just want to share that with other people. So I have a skill set that can help mold her story into something digestible, and then giving it to other people to digest. And that's what really fires me up, gets me going. I don't know where all that stemmed from, but
dude, I feel like some of it. What's that?
I don't know why I got on that story, but I was trying to like connect it back to your answer, and I just totally.
Yeah. No, I think we, just talking about just inspiring people and the human connection and the creative burnout and that kind of stuff. It's like, you were, in the gym and you saw this, it's like, nobody asked me to tell this story. And it's like,
Exactly.
it's what makes your heart pump, it's like, I remember watching that video, and I think I even said, when I shared it, I was like, hey, if you want to spend the best 7 minutes, I can't remember what I said. I was like, you got to watch this story. Like, it is like that type of stuff, man. If I wish that there was like there was some way to just do that for a living, just tell
Yeah.
stories and not have to worry about the monetary side of it, because man, I think you're a lot like me in that way where I would just give, and just go out and just inspire people.
Yeah.
Believe, that's where it
That's
came
what
from.
keeps me.
Believe, like,
Yeah. Believe.
yeah,
That's what keeps me from, I think that's where it, that whole story stems from that's what keeps me from burning out, is like being able to create space like we talked about, but also having space to do things for myself. And when I say for myself, it's really for other people. Like it really inspires me to see these situations and things that people can do. And like I get like rejuvenated by sharing other people's stories with people that need to hear them. And that's in no way, I'm not, it's strictly just for like inspiring other people.
yeah,
It's not really about me, honestly. Like
yeah,
I do want to do the best job, obviously, that I can do and tell it in the best way. But like, man, when I hear like stories, um, of people that's like, wow, I was going through the same thing. And like, I've gotten tons of messages from telling stories like that, where people will write me and say, man, I was just in a really dark place. And then I watched this random video for some reason. And this really spoke to me. And I just want to like say thank you for, creating something like this for me to see. And like that alone is it. Like that's why I do what I do. Not really making money telling client videos that are selling a product. I just want to
yeah.
inspire people. So
Come on, man, that's so awesome. Well, hey, we're getting to the end here. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of pick. I had two things laid out for us to end. I don't think we have enough time to hit on both of them. I thought it would be kind of fun if we did like a creative space brainstorm where we just rapid fire ways to rejuvenate and just get back into that creative headspace, whether it's go outside, whatever. So I don't know if you like that idea or if you want to talk about the priorities and just feeling happy and fulfilled in life. I don't know. What are you feeling?
that's a good question. Well, I think they kind of go hand in hand, don't they? I mean,
Yeah, a little bit, really. Yeah, let's see what happens in 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. So,
okay.
I don't know how this is gonna go. I didn't think this really through, so I'll just throw out. Maybe we'll go three at a time. We'll throw three out, and if one's like, "Dude, what? Tell me more about that," we can talk for a minute about it, and then we'll.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so we'll call this a creative space brainstorm session. For me, sleep tank deprivation. I checked one of those out, and that was completely mind blowing. I love that. Coming down into my office in the morning, reading a book at like 4:30 a.m. with a cup of coffee. There's no sounds in the house, like just complete quiet, and just getting lost in some self improvement books. I love waterfall chasing, so going out and just finding like
Yeah.
the biggest and best waterfalls that might be the hidden gems.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you throw some out that might.
Okay. Putting me on the spot here, but I'll say yes, absolutely. Like hiking, exploring. Really, exploration, I think, is a huge one for me. Not just hiking. It doesn't have to be hiking, but like going to a place that I've never been before, like experiencing a thing that I've never experienced. That really helps me with creative burnout for sure, because it's like I have new feelings and new emotions that like about this thing that I've never really experienced or interacted with. So that's really cool. Um, Working out is something that's huge for me, just because like I need time to. It's creating a time to not think about anything but the task at hand, and like that's something that I take a lot of relief creatively, to where I'm not focused on literally nothing in my life has any importance or priority in that hour, other than like this one thing that I'm doing. And that, like, it's almost like turning your brain off. So you can turn your brain off in multiple ways, but working out is a easy way for me to turn my brain off and then turn it back on after. So that's good. And then yeah, definitely I would have to say family time is another really important one. And that's and probably the best thing, I'll dial in more on family time, because everyone's like, yeah, when I'm not working, I want to be with my family. That's pretty easy to say. But what I get from creative rejuvenation with my family is experiencing things through my children, and really like focusing on like, what are they feeling in this moment? How do they see this, and how do they perceive this moment that we're doing this thing? And trying to feel those feelings, because like children are just incredible, and they see things differently than adults. They feel things differently, obviously, because they're not mentally developed, but at the same time, that can help us with, kind of diving into those feelings that we haven't felt for so long, and that in its own way really helps me creatively. I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing, but like just being able to like know, okay, my child's feeling this thing when we're fishing. And the other day I threw a cast net and got 4 giant like fish, like not like these little mud minnow fish that we would use for bait, because when you cast net, like you're looking for bait, so small fish. But we like got 4 big giant fish out of this cast net. It was just like the most incredible moment for my kids. And yeah, and like those are the little moments that I like soak in and go like, that was worth it. That made, when I go back, I get some sort of creative energy from that
Yeah.
I really can't explain.
The
but yeah.
childlike wonder, man. I'm like right there with you. I love that. Like all summer we would go on these we'd call it park hunting. So when my son, he's 1, he would go up to his nap time, we would load up in the car. I'd let him fall asleep in the car, and we would literally drive around to all the parks in like, a 15-mile radius, and we would take notes like, oh, what, that one has a zip line? Like we've never been to a park with a zip line. And we would just like start taking notes. Dude, we found one, like it's a 30-minute drive from our house, and it's the most epic park. Like all the shade around the park, a triple deck double tube slide with a creek that goes around the whole thing. Like we're always driving and running into people, and I love like exchanging contact with other parents, because like when you're in the homeschool community, it's like, how do you build friendship? And they're like, oh yeah, well, you guys are over here a lot, where do you live? And I'm like, we're up in Thornton. That's like 30 minutes from here. They're like, well, how'd you end up here? But yeah, I'm the same way, just kind of following that childlike wonder, and exploring the world through their eyes is definitely something that is a very creative, rejuvenating process.
Yep.
Anything else that you can think of in the last like 1 minute here?
What else? Yeah, so I think the other thing that probably we didn't actually talk about, which is funny because I think that I'm actually really surprised that we didn't talk about this, because this is a big thing for me. Just like, so being a creative, like you said, it can feel very siloed at times. You can feel burned out. You can feel alone, because we do all this stuff on our own. So finding a collaborative group of people, whether or not it's a team that you work with consistently or just people that you collaborate with on a regular basis, is something that's like super helpful to me. And right now, I think in my career, I have the best team that I've ever had. And that has allowed me to do the best work that I've ever done. And it's not because of me, it's because of the team of people that I'm surrounding myself with. And so that is super important. So I think that as a creative, if you're feeling burnt out or if you're feeling alone, find like-minded people. Do what you're doing right now, like go reach out to people and say, hey man, like, I just feel like we would be good friends. Let me introduce myself. And I think that will help you so much in the long run, because the bigger team that you have of people in your corner helping you on projects, or if they're either helping you on projects or not, and you're still doing like the one-man band thing where you're just doing everything on your own, you still need people in your corner. And if you don't, then you're gonna feel alone and burnt out and eventually want to stop, because we've all been, I know I've been there for sure, where it's like I don't have communication and camaraderie with a group of people right now in my life, and I'm doing all these projects alone and I'm just not happy. And I think it's really just because I didn't have a community of people that I got to share ideas with and be inspired with. So that's probably like the most important thing. And it's funny we didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
It's
dude,
like
and that
have
is
a
kind
team
of
of
funny.
people.
It's like a collective, you know, like that's the
Yeah,
whole podcast, right? Like a collective of creative
yeah,
people, like aspiring to get together and connect, you know.
absolutely.
I think the last thing to add to that would be, just I think you and I are both are faith-filled people, and it's
Yeah.
easy to feel alone out there. And if you don't
Mhm.
know who to reach out to, it's like, man, me being able to just lean into Jesus Christ even is like
Yeah.
such a huge crutch for me. And times where I'm like, I
Mm.
felt like quitting so many times. And it's like when I go into one of those creative spaces that we just talked about, all it takes is one time to get outside and connect with just His glory. Like
Yeah.
that's what like fills me back up. I'm like, oh yeah, I am created to do this, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to encourage people to also give that a shot. You know, I know it's kind of a strange world we live in, but I couldn't live my life without my faith. So,
100% agree with that. Yeah, there's no time that I feel more connected to God than just being in His creation. To be out there and to know, like, to just know that this world is it's just not possible to exist. All the complicated things on how things live in nature, like how things are created and how things need the perfect atmosphere that we have to grow and to sustain life. um it's like all of the intricate things that have to happen for the world to be what it is. um that inspires me, because you go out and you see it, you see nature, you see things growing, and you're like, these things need all of these other things to coexist, and humans need things to coexist, and nature needs things to coexist. And so getting out there and like understanding that, wow, like this whole world was created for this purpose and for us. And that's also super inspiring. And yeah, that's one of the main reasons that I like being outside the most. So
heck yeah. Dude, I
cool,
really
man.
appreciate your time today, Shaughn. Thank you so much for going over on time as well.
Yeah,
It
no
was super
problem.
nice to meet you for the first time today on this whole journey that we've started, and now I'm excited to kind of continue just building a relationship with you, man. If anybody
Absolutely.
wants to reach out and follow what you're up to, where can they find you?
I think you could, it's just Instagram is Shaughn Tillman Film Co. is my Instagram. Yeah, just if you type in my name right, then I'll pop up and say it's just Shaughn spelled like Vaughn with Aughn, and
Okay.
Shaughn Tillman. You just type me in Google, you'll find all the things that you need to find.
Heck yeah, yeah. I'll put up all the stuff down below as well or whatever. But
Cool.
thanks so much, man. Have a good day, and we'll be in
All right.
touch soon.
Thanks, dude. See
All
you later.
right.